Dad, I think Mom's cheating. My name is Craig Johnson. I was married for 17 years to the woman I thought loved me with my whole being, Carolyn. So sue me, I'm a cuckold. She has been having an affair for about 6 years with her boss who owns the real estate firm she works for. We have 3 children, a 16-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy. The third is a beautiful little girl who just turned 2. I love them all, except for my wife. Oh yes, before I forget, I am a police sergeant. About 2 months ago, my youngest daughter fell at daycare, and my wife was unavailable to pick her up. Dad rushed over to help. I jumped in my car with lights flashing and rushed to get her. She was sucking on a lollipop on a stick and sniffing her nose. I went over and looked her over, kissed her, and ruffled her hair. The older ones couldn't stand it, and she loved it. I left her laughing and went to talk to the supervisor. She told me that Gidget had fallen and hurt her calf pretty badly. They had called an ambulance and would be there soon. I went and sat with my daughter, and soon she started laughing again. The ER doctor showed up and said she should go to the emergency room to get stitches. So I escorted the ambulance to the emergency room. I tried to contact my wife, but the message went to voicemail. I sent the message and then launched the locator app because Linny kept losing her smartphone. The phone was smart, not so much my wife's. It displayed her at the Holiday Inn, only 7 miles away. I went and sat with my daughter while she got stitches. When she was done, we signed the forms. I went to the trunk and pulled out a folding baby seat. I set it in the back seat and put her seatbelt on. Then we went looking for her mother. My stomach was starting to reject the food I had eaten for lunch. I pulled into the parking lot of the Holiday Inn and arrived just in time to see Carolyn and Arthur Dash, her boss, coming out of the lobby. They were standing hand in hand with his left hand resting on her ass. They laughed and smiled, and then she kissed him. You would have thought she was kissing me. It was exactly that kind of kiss. I stopped the big Ford and watched, camera set to tight focus, as they got to her Lincoln Aviator. She turned to him and kissed him. His hand slid, yes, slided, up her skirt so I could see the top of her stockings. I had to beg her to wear stockings and never in public. It's over, I recalled my thoughts. They laughed, kissed again, and then she got into her car and drove away. Suddenly I saw stoplights and she skidded to a stop. Her car was stationary and suddenly my phone rang. I looked at the number and the name. It was the stupid one. Hi, Carolyn, I answered in an even tone of voice. What's up? Where are you? I'm at the hospital. The baby's fine. Where are you? I couldn't reach your cell phone. I'm at the office. I'm on my way to the hospital right now. Drive carefully, I said, hanging up. I watched her car as she called 2 more times. I switched them all to voicemail. She started to roll forward and almost hit the pickup truck as she ran out into the street screaming. I smirked and headed home. I pulled out my phone and dialed my friend's number and told him I needed to talk to him. I pulled up to the house and pulled a sleeping Gidget inside. I went back to my car and got 4 DNA swab kits. I got in and swabbed Gidget's mouth with a swab. I put the swab in a container, sealed it, and labeled the plastic bag. I went to get iced tea and called work. I talked to my boss, the head of the detective division, and told him I needed the rest of the week to take care of some family business. Is that okay? Yes, sir. I just need to see some doctors about my kids. All right. Just keep me posted. Roger that, Chief. 20 minutes later, the cheating girlfriend showed up. I felt physically sick when I saw her, but I took a deep breath and counted to 10. I only got to 7 before she knocked on the door. Where is she? She screamed. I told her to calm down and that she was asleep. She squeezed past me into the baby's bedroom. I started making a list of things to do for tomorrow. Divorce lawyer, DNA test, electronics store. She came out of the bedroom and ran up to me. What's wrong? She demanded. She fell. She's fine. She handled it like a trooper. Only 4 stitches and the doctor said they'll leave hardly any scars. She's fine. Carolyn. Why didn't they call me? She yelled at me. They tried, honey. They couldn't reach you. I tried. The message went to voicemail. "So where have you been, honey?" She started stuttering and averted her eyes. "I was in a meeting. I turned it off so it wouldn't interfere with the meeting. I suggest that instead of turning it off, you turn it on vibrate. I'm just glad it wasn't anything serious with the kids, or maybe something fatal happened to me." Her face clouded over, then she turned pale. "I never thought about it," she said. "Of course you didn't, dear," I thought to myself. With those words, our other two children came running in from school, Marisa, who is 16, and Craig Jr., who is 12. They stopped in the living room and looked around at their parents. "What's wrong, Dad?" my son asked. My beautiful daughter gave her mother a cold stare, but she asked me, "Is everything okay, Dad?" She asked. "Yes. Your sister fell in kindergarten and cut herself. She had to go to the emergency room for stitches, and I went with her. I was watching my wife." She flinched. "Where have you been, Mom?" Marisa asked. "I was at a meeting," she mumbled. Obviously, my daughter knew or suspected something. Junior, as we called him, looked intently at his mother. "Really, Mom?" he said. Carolyn squirmed and blushed thickly. "I need to take a shower," she said. I couldn't resist. "Didn't you take one this morning?" I asked innocently. She faltered and looked at me, trying to make me spontaneously combust. "Get over it, Craig!" she hissed. She turned around and went upstairs. I turned to my kids and was surprised to see them. They were devastated and looked at me sadly. "It's gonna be okay, guys. It's just a spat." "Whatever you say, Daddy," Marisa said. Junior just shook his head. "How about some pizza?" I asked. I called and ordered a pizza. 30 minutes later, 2 large pizzas arrived, one with pepperoni, one with mushrooms. The kids hollered, even little Gidget, and we waited for their mom. She showed up and turned up her nose. "You know I only like anchovies," she growled. "So sue me," I said. She gave me a sizzling look and went to pour herself some wine. The children giggled and glanced at their mother. She rushed off somewhere, and the kids and I recounted school events and social activities, i.e., dates and the like. It was cold between us that night, and I had to get another blanket. It had been about 3 months since we had been close. It would have been even worse. The next day, I met with my lawyer and asked her what my options were. She hated cheaters, especially wives, and had a soft spot for cops. But she told me that we had no fault in anything, and no matter what, I would be used unless my wife agreed to anything I wanted. She told me to gather all the evidence I could, and we would see what we would see. She did say that from an alimony standpoint, I was in decent shape because my wife was making more money than I was. Also, because of her age, my oldest daughter could decide for herself who she wanted to live with. I went to a friend and asked him to set up surveillance for my wife and her friend. He was a good friend, and I had worked with him before. It wouldn't cost too much, and I would have everything I needed. I then went to an electronics store and bought some wireless voice recorders and 3 video cameras. I went home and installed the cameras in my parents' bedroom, living room, and guest room. I would put one of the recorders in her car, put one on the bookcase in the living room, and one in the master bedroom. Then I got a text from my spouse that she would be home late and that I should watch the kids until she arrived. I got ready, went and got Gidget, and then went home to make dinner. About 2 hours later, my older two came home and we discussed dinner. Grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, and creamed spinach. "How does that sound?" I asked. Marisa said it sounded appetizing. Junior looked at me, smirked slightly, and asked, "What does Mommy want?" I told him that Mom could make her own dinner. Marisa and Junior looked at each other, and then Marisa said, "Daddy, we need to talk." I figured I was going to be read the riot act, so we moved into the kitchen and started dinner. She began, "Daddy, I think Mom is cheating. She doesn't respect you, and she's never around when we need her." "Marisa is right, Daddy. I'm glad they have looks and brains, regardless of where they got them from." I stopped what I was doing and enclosed them in a group hug. We were immediately joined by their little sister screaming, "Me too, me too." I looked at my kids and told them I loved them more than I loved myself. I always told them that. They always thought it was corny, but they loved it. I told them it didn't look good and I was checking out what their mom was doing. But know this, I will always love you. You are my children. We will get through this. I obey. The youngest squeaked, "I think you should give us cheek swabs, Daddy. It might help in your case. It would never change the way I feel about you, but it would be nice to know how spoiled she is." Junior's right, Dad. I want to know because right now I don't have much love for her. I was stunned, but I felt sorry for them. Okay, let's do this before she gets home. I took swabs from her cheeks, and then mine. I sealed them up and put them in my briefcase. The next day, I went to an independent lab and had them do a rapid DNA test. It cost a little more, but I wanted it done as quickly as possible. A week and a half later, I got the results. None of the children were mine. Her company always had a 4th of July party at the owner's house. I really didn't want to go, but was told I had to do it. She was one of the top wine salesmen in the company and had to show up. I had everything I needed on her and her lover. Tapes, photos, audio tapes, videos, recipes, and DNA test results. I just couldn't think of a better way or time to do it. I realized that no matter what I did or when, I lost. So I went. She said it wasn't going to be a family event, so the kids weren't invited. Looking back, I realized that was a blessing. We arrived a little after 11 a.m. and grabbed a couple drinks. Beer for me, white wine for her. She was dressed in a yellow sundress, no bra, 7-inch espadrilles, and a shawl. She looked good. I stayed pretty close to her, not that I was following her, but following her nonetheless. Her friend found her and chatted with her for a bit. He whispered some sweet nothings in her ear and then proceeded to fulfill his duties as her host. He disappeared, and I immediately increased my surveillance of Carolyn. She kept looking around, and after the 3rd drink, she lost sight of me. She doesn't tolerate alcohol well and was about 1 gulp away from getting drunk. I watched as she grabbed another glass of wine and slid to the back of the long lot his house was built on. Her 2 girlfriends from work tried to distract me, but I switched to Coke after half of my bud. They were a little tipsy, and I managed to keep my eyes on her as she headed for the corner of the garden shed and disappeared out the back door. I set my Coke on the table, pulled out my cell phone, and turned on the video camera. I moved to the corner of the shed, slipped around it, left the area, and made my way to the gate at the back of the building. I looked out from around the corner and saw my wife. Her sundress was down to her waist. It was like a light bulb flashed in my head, and I thanked all that was holy for this good fortune. I turned off my camera and took a couple still shots. I put my cell phone away and watched them make love. I reached for his stupid-looking man-ass, grabbed it and pulled it out. I turned him around and hit him in the face with my right hand, destroying his nose and breaking his left cheekbone. I also managed to break something in my hand. He fell to the ground unconscious, and Carolyn slid down the wall of the barn and stretched out on the ground as well. I pulled out my handcuffs and handcuffed him to a fence post while I read him his rights. You are under arrest for rape. You have the right to remain silent. If you give up your right to remain silent, anything you say can be used against you in court. Carolyn started screaming, "Craig, what are you doing?" You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford to hire an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Do you understand those rights as I have outlined them to you? Carolyn was already hysterical and struggling to get up. I pulled out my cell phone, dialed 911, and waited. 911, what's your emergency? This is Detective Craig Johnson, badge 7 Wamptier. I'm at 6132 Larson Street, and I have a rape suspect in custody. I need backup and a supervisor on scene ASAP and an ambulance. Private residence, party in full swing. Carolyn was furious. It's not what you think. It's not rape, you idiot. That's how it's gonna go down, Carolyn. It is rape. I have video, audio, pictures, photos, tapes, receipts, timelines of where you've been, and DNA of our 3 children showing they're not mine. Are you going to go along with this? Or are you never even going to look at your children again, you cheater?" The blood rushed from her face. She settled to the ground again and wailed, "No!" I picked her up in my arms and wrapped her in her shawl. "Make up your mind, Carolyn," she muttered. "My panties. You didn't need them 5 minutes ago. What makes you think you need them now? Leave them for the guys at the crime scene." I lifted her to her feet. She was wailing, breathing fast and sniffling. We shuffled across the lawn behind the house to the patio. As we got closer, the 10 or so people hanging around outside fell silent, more shocked than not. They stepped aside, and I led her over to a vacant chaise lounge and sat her down. 2 of her tipsy friends ran up to her and started yelling. "What happened? What did you do to her?" "I didn't do anything. Your boss raped her." "What?" Donna screamed. "You heard me," I said. "You didn't know? You didn't know!" Laura shrieked. "Knew what?" I asked. "She said she had an open marriage. She said you were fine with it." "She lied," I said. Just then the cops arrived. I directed 2 officers down to the garden shed and told them to read the driver's license again because I wasn't sure he had heard me. A replacement sergeant showed up with another patrolman, and I told the officer to take Donna and Laura's statements and addresses. The asshole's wife pushed through the crowd and wanted to know what was going on. The sergeant explained that her husband had been arrested for rape, and someone had told her what had happened. She exploded, "You're a change!" She stormed off and tried to attack Carolyn, who by this time was nearly catatonic. The cops restrained her, and the EMTs showed up afterward. I told them what had happened, and they put Carolyn on a gurney. When she got up, she left a small puddle on the chaise lounge. I told them to take her to the emergency room and have them check her for rape. Then 2 other cops brought Arthur up with a swollen face and his hands cuffed behind his back. He made the mistake of saying they had an understanding and the intimacy was consensual. Unfortunately, his wife heard him and lashed out at him. "You muddack!" They restrained her again, and she said, "You'll hear from my lawyer." I followed them to the station and signed all the forms because, after all, she was still my wife. I went to the station and laid out a complaint against him under oath. Since it was a Saturday, it couldn't be settled until Monday at the earliest. He tried to contact his attorney, but his wife had already beat him to it. I went back to the emergency room and went to see my almost ex-wife. She had had a bad day and didn't look well at all. She saw me walk in, perked up, and tried to smile. Then she saw the look on my face and was startled by my behavior. "So, Carolyn, how long has this been going on?" She trembled and tears came to her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to last long. Just a little fling. I didn't mean it." "Bullshit, Caroline!" I lunged at her and stopped a few centimeters from her face. "Gidget isn't mine, Junior isn't mine, and Marisa isn't mine. It's 17 years. We've been married for 17 years. You can do the math. You're supposed to be one of the best sellers." "Why, Carolyn? Why? Why? Why?" The crying was almost immediately replaced by a smirk as she wiped her eyes. "Because I can. You're supposed to be a detective. You figure it out. I can get as many dudes as I want and you have no idea." I looked at my soon-to-be ex-wife, and something inside me died. I was looking right through her, and the cold expression on my face told her a lot. She seemed to age by centuries before my eyes and shrank back. "Oh, God, what's wrong with me?" I took her hand and led her to our car. I put her in the passenger seat, got in myself, and drove to her parents' house. She stared out the window blankly until we pulled up to their house and stopped. "What are we doing here? I want to go home." "People in hell want ice water, stupid." I got out and pulled her out of the car and led her to the front door. I rang the doorbell, and when it opened, there stood her father. "Frank," I said, "your daughter needs to stay here for a while. I'll be back tomorrow to explain everything. She just came out of the emergency room. Take care of her, please." He looked at me like I had 2 heads. I turned around and walked away. I turned off my phone and went home. I walked in on my kids, and they looked at me. "Where's Mom?" "She's at your grandparents'. She's going to be there for a while." I filled them in on what had happened, leaving out the gory details. They accepted it, after tears and sniffles, and said they understood why I did what I did, but they couldn't understand why she did what she did. Join the club, I thought to myself. I went and got reports, tapes, pictures, surveillance reports, and receipts of everything. I had on her. I prepared a 4-pack of everything, omitting only the DNA test results. I called an attorney and pulled the divorce trigger. I asked for a restraining order based on the police report and the rape case file. I put the DNA results in the lawyer's bag, then drove to the asshole's house and talked to his wife, Lorna. I apologized for the noise, and she kindly sympathized with me about the general mess. I gave her the baggie I had and told her to use what she wanted. She was a little embarrassed and thanked me. I got out and went home. I stopped by her parents' house and gave one of the bags to my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law. "Your daughter's a freak. You need to get her some help." I turned around and left. I drove home. The next day, we went to church and then to Denny's for breakfast. I kept my cell phone off all day and then all night. Monday morning, I showed up for work and was given time to arraign the asshole. I showed up at the courthouse and attended the arraignment. His attorney played the consensual love card and stated that there was no rape. They presented statements from 2 women from the company. The judge wasn't sure she liked what she heard, but said she was dismissing the charges with prejudice, so he could face new charges if anything changed. He turned around, saw me, and smirked. It didn't last long, as whoever his wife had as a down payment ordered that he be notified of the divorce on his way out of court, along with the restraining order. I smirked as I walked away. It wasn't quite even yet. I came home with copies of the rape report, the police report, and the DNA results from the rape scene. Guess who my poor little daughter's father was, biologically speaking? I was on the phone with my attorney when someone knocked on my front door. Now only one person I know knocks instead of ringing the doorbell. Of course, I opened the door to my current brother-in-law. Anthony was Carolyn's older brother, but only by about 3 years. He had his own construction company. There were rumors that he was involved with the mafia. A few years ago, his son had some drug trouble, and I pulled some strings, 99% legal, and got things straightened out. Then we got him into a program, got him cleaned up, and now he's in his 3rd year of seminary and thriving. Needless to say, I was his favorite brother-in-law. So this was probably not a social visit. Tony squeezed past me and was greeted by my kids. They loved him, and his wife Teresa, and their 3 children. He released himself from the hug, turned to me and said, "Back porch." We walked up to the back porch, and he turned to me and said, "What the hell is going on? Carolyn is not doing well at Mom and Dad's house, and Dad is furious. Did she tell you anything? You threw her out. Then she got evasive and wouldn't talk anymore. That was right after Dad showed her the literature you gave him. What's going on? Did you look at any of the stuff your dad had?" He wouldn't let me. Sigh. Your sister cheated on me for 17 years. None of my children are biologically mine. She's been spreading her charms everywhere. I don't know who Marisa or Junior's father is. She probably doesn't know either. Gidget's father is her current boss, Arthur Dash. She also has a medical condition, gonorrhea, and is pregnant. Not by me. Your father has everything I have except the rape kit and the police report, but my lawyer has everything. She'll be notified of the divorce this week. He slumped back in his chair and looked at me devastated. No chance? From what? Would you do it? No, I understand. They dropped the charges against the shithead, that's what I call him, and he got dumped by his wife, who also has everything your father has, thanks to me. I didn't mean to be mean to your parents, Tony, but with the attitude your sister has now, I didn't want them to get the wrong information. And she needs some serious psychological help. I understand that. It's just a little shocking, that's all. And I feel bad. We talked for a while, and he got up to leave. So what are you going to do about shithead? He asked. I don't know. Anything I do will come right back at me. I know what I want to do, but no offense. She's not worth going to jail over. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Don't worry. I'll take care of it. You're still family. This won't come back to bite you. I won't hurt my sister, but he'll get what's coming to him. It'll equalize us, bop brother." "Tony, don't do this," I said. "Do what?" he asked. He turned and walked away before I could say anything else. So on Thursday, my wife was notified of the divorce at her parents' house. She collapsed, and they had to take her to the emergency room. She was in the hospital for about a week. Then she came home to her parents' house. Her father came to talk to me. "Couldn't we have fixed it anyway?" he asked. "Didn't you see what I gave you?" "Yes, but obviously she made a mistake." "Error?" I shouted. Scratching the car was a mistake. Forgetting to enter a check was a mistake. Making love to someone else for 17 years, getting another man pregnant, passing him off as her husband's child, ending love with him was not a mistake. I'm just glad the kids were at day camp when I hit on their grandfather. I calmed down and told him to get her to sign the papers. I was done with her. He wasn't happy with either or us. An interesting thing happened. She was notified about 312 weeks ago, and 3 weeks ago the asshole disappeared. He didn't show up for his lawyer's appointment with his wife. It turns out that for tax purposes, she was the majority owner of Dash Realty, so she really wasn't concerned and amended her lawsuit to show that she had been abandoned. The divorce proceedings continued, but now it would take a year. Carolyn was 2 months pregnant, so we would have to wait another 7 months to finalize everything. So, we waited. As the case dragged on, her attorney tried to get the settlement agreement changed. She wanted more, said she was entitled to more. I offered to keep the house and compensate her 10%. She got to keep her retirement savings and our savings account. No visits except for 1 weekend every 2 months at her parents' house. No male or female companions in attendance. Not to mention Marisa. She didn't want to see her. Her attorney was against almost everything. I asked my attorney to set up an appointment. I arrived at my attorney's office a half hour early and loaded the DVD into his projector. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat down. She showed up with her attorney. My attorney introduced himself and Carolyn extended her hand to him. "I know who you are. I don't need to get to know you." Her lawyer said we should act civilized and nailed him with my best cop look. He choked a little. They started haggling. 4 hours later, they had worked through everything, but still hadn't come to anything. I vetoed everything and even recalled a few things. Then she blew up and said I was being unreasonable. I dropped a hydrogen bomb. "Okay, you answer one question truthfully and I'll change my mind." I pressed the start button on the DVD player. The disc started with Carolyn and the asshole coming out of the Holiday Inn. It was the DVR footage from my police car. She never saw it, never even knew it existed. It went on until the moment she kissed the asshole. I stopped it and turned to her. Her face was ash gray, and her jaw was set against the table. "At the meeting, right, Carolyn? If you don't sign this as it is, we will go to court and everything will become public." "Sign this!" she cried, grabbed a pen and signed the whole thing. Her lawyer was stunned as she grabbed her purse, stood up, and her water broke. She howled. We called an ambulance and took her to the hospital. I made sure the birth certificate didn't list my name as the father. She gave birth to a boy weighing 3 pounds. My attorney sued for DNA testing and voila, it wasn't my baby. Not only that, it wasn't Shithead's baby either. She was cheating on her lover too. The divorce went through and I was finally free. I immediately became very desirable in the singles market. My daughter informed me that I was considered handsome. My son told me that I had to be wary. Otherwise, you may be attacked. And I went to visit my brother-in-law and we had a couple of beers. Finally, I asked him if he knew what happened to the shithead. "Who's that?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Never mind," I said. I'd dated a few, but my heart wasn't in it. About 2 years later, Tony and Teresa threw a party at a bar. Everyone was invited, including my ex-wife. The kids stayed away from her and the guy she brought along. Her little boy, however, was adorable. My daughters literally pounced on him. My now 18-year-old daughter brought a young man with her to a party. He was fine, but he was still being tested. I actually liked him, but don't tell her that. The guy who came with her mother was drooling over my daughter. I saw it, but didn't want to embarrass my daughter with any actions or words. He kept sneaking up on her, and I was about to intervene when her young man friend joined in. "Hey, honey, what's going on?" "Mind your own business, boy. The young lady and I are having a conversation." "Oh, don't mind me," he said. "I was just trying to keep her from hurting you." His hand slid to her thigh and then to her ass. "Get your hands off me," she said, looking him straight in the face. "Hey, you know you like this, don't—" She slammed her fist into his throat and grabbed his right hand. His thumb flew back, snapped, and the scream caught everyone's attention. "I don't have my mother's morals, scumbag." Her buddy smirked. "That's my girl," I thought. Her mother walked over and squealed, "What did you do?" My brother-in-law, who had seen and heard everything, came over and said, "I think you two had better leave." After they left the party, everything went quiet. Then someone new showed up. My sister-in-law ran up and hugged a spectacular brunette who was about 170 centimeters tall, with petite breasts and legs from hips to ankles. She had the cute face of a neighborhood girl, and her eyes were brown with golden speckles. She was stunning. At least that's what I thought. My son came over and elbowed me in the rib. "Put your eyes back where they belong, old man," he smirked. "What are you talking about?" I asked. My sister-in-law then brought the beautiful lady over to us and introduced her. "Kurt, this is my sister, Angelina O'Malley." Oh, shoot. All the good ones are already taken, I thought. She had just moved here. She had a 10-year-old son, was a lawyer, and wanted a fresh start. Her husband had been killed in Afghanistan. Teresa looked me in the eye and said, "I told her all about you. Maybe you can help each other." Angie looked at me and said, "We can try. The end!"